Hi everyone, welcome back. It's I hope you survived the first session here on Wednesday and ready for the next round. Uh, as you can see on the front from my presentation, I put a flower bouquet, and it's because now we're having classes here on the Holy Friday, which is one of the of the few public holidays we have here in Denmark. So that is one of the most holy days that we have here. And when I finish this, then I will be together with my family. It is really family occasion, even during here, during the Corona times, then I can only be together with my wife and my youngest daughter, but otherwise we have to be separated. We are still under lockdown, even though our government has now suggested that after Easter we can start opening slowly, very slowly, and expectedly schools for the smaller kids and daycare centers which will open. But otherwise, we still have to take care. Seeing the first round of Corona, we have not been so hard hit, and our health system is capable of managing without breaking down, collapsing. But that's for now. We don't know what's in fact going to happen afterwards. Everyone is sleeping carefully. How many died last night or last yesterday? How many are now having facility of the ventilator and things. So that's. But now we're going to go to class 1, 2, and it's very much about how to build a case. Case studies are very commonly used in comparative politics. Other ways to do the things, which is not so common, or at least one of them, is by using experiments. I'm not aware of. I'm not been into that kind of studies in comparative politics. Another thing is to make surveys. When you have large surveys of population using different sources of public data or other kind of data, that's another one. But case study is today the most important way or method of dealing with comparative politics, and it has evolved a lot from before the 1950s, when it was more just presentations without much analysis. It was very descriptive. A lot of things have changed since that. So case studies today have become a very, very strong instrument in order to, or method in order to do research. And now I will present something. Present. And seemingly you had no excuse in relation to the books that I thought in the beginning that you had to, in fact, to either buy or have to borrow it from the library or any other means. Because in fact it was capable of I was capable of finding so I could share it with you, and you can find it in files. And it's a very informative book. So please, I hope that you have read it already. And my presentation will not be directly related to the book, but it was be taken from other sources as well. But the case study is very much about how do we know what we know, and from where do we get it? Because the brain is, we are saving a lot of things on our hard disk, and then in relation to when we go to scientific knowledge, it's about there's many ways of knowing different things, and as the ways of knowing could be informal observation, selective observation, where in fact we choose what we're going to observe. But there's also about generalization, sometimes overgeneralization. You've seen some things and you say, ah, this is always the case. But I know how it is because in my country it's like this. And then when you go abroad, you find out it's in fact different. So, but that is a tendency we have, that is to jump into conclusions. Ways of knowing is also from authority, they inform us about different ways. And then it's about can get to know from undertaking applying different research methods. That's also a way to get to know different things. And as mentioned earlier, there are considered to be 3 analytical levels: micro, meso, and macro. And as I told you before, this is perhaps a very one can also sometimes have cases which in fact is cross-cutting, but I will not confuse you anymore. So the micro, the meso, and the macro. The micro is very much on the individual, and macro is very from the society perspective. But what is a case study? And it's about the case study research. It's a method of dealing with comparative politics. And then the case study is most suitable to considering the how and the why questions. And that is very much from what's the general accepted, but as we discuss later, can be questioned. The goal in case study research is to understand the boundaries of the case and the complexity of the behavior patterns of the boundary system. So it's about understand what are the frame for the case. So we are dealing with this, and here are the limits of the case, and then, but we're not dealing with this. And then it's about the complexity. So it's not something just simple that way. Oh, we're looking at this, and there's nothing else that we are looking at. In fact, all the things are always related to something else. And then basically, it's again a case study. It's an in-depth study of a particular situation. And when we're into comparative politics, of course, it is about a particular situation in at least 2 different settings. But it's an in-depth study, so it's not a superficial. What is a comparative case study? It's again, when we talk about comparative, as we mentioned, it's studies to cover 2 or more cases in a way that produce more generalizable knowledge about causal questions, or causal questions. What are the relationships between them? What are the differences? And comparative case studies are undertaken over time and emphasize comparison within and across context. Comparative case studies often incorporate both qualitative and quantitative data. So even though in essence case studies can often be of quality, then in fact it incorporates both kind of data. According to Yin, which is one of famous people in comparative politics and case studies, that a case study design is considered when the focus of the study is to answer how and why questions. You cannot manipulate behavior of those involved in the study. You want to cover contextual conditions because you believe they are relevant to the phenomenon under study. And the boundaries are not that clear between the phenomenon and the context. This is according to Yin. And furthermore, according to Yin, the case study design must have 5 components. Of course, research question, its propositions, that's the knowledge you have to have in beforehand, and then its units of analysis, which is what level is micro, meso, and is it the whole society, or it's a limited part of the society? Is this one part of the politics, a political area? It could be health, it could be the welfare state, it could be defense, how is defense looking in different countries? And its units of analysis. We have a determination of how the data are linked to the propositions. How are the data linked to, in fact, what we would like to look into, in a way, say, the research design. Finally, the criteria to interpret the findings. How are we going to analyze the findings? Guba and Lincoln, some other researchers, they describe case study types. And these types are factual, interpretive, and evaluative. Each case study must outline the purpose of doing, and depending on the type of case study and the action proposed by the researcher could determine the possible products of the study. So it's based on the type of the case study and the action proposed that we can determine what in fact would come out of the study. The third one, mistake, emphasizes that the number of type of case studies depends on what the purpose of the inquiry. We can have instrumental case studies used to provide insight into an issue. Intrinsic case studies undertaken to gain deeper understanding of the case. Collective case study is to study a number of cases in order to inquire into a particular phenomenon. See, as you can see, they have different boxes in your definitions also of the case studies, which in fact sometimes can be supplemented, but sometimes it can also be. So here is one case study typology with the definition. We have the explanatory, the exploratory, and descriptive, and multiple case studies. With the explanatory, this is very much to use, okay, we are looking for the causal links in some real-life interventions. So we're looking for answers. What are the causal links? And these interventions can be very complex, too complex for, so we cannot make a survey, or we cannot make an experimental kind of research. So if we talk in relation to evaluation, the explanation would link program implementation with program effect. So what in fact we are doing some different kind of intervention, and what are the effects, what are the causes. If we do A, then B will happen. If we do B, then, or if we do C, then D will happen. So it's very causal links. Then we have the exploratory. This type of case study is used to explore those situations in which the intervention being evaluated has no clear single set of outcomes. So there we are more exploring. We don't know, in fact, what's going to be the effects of it. So we have to go in fact, with that open mind to undertake the study. Then there's the descriptive. This type of case study is used to describe an intervention or phenomenon in real-life context in which it occurred. And there it's not so much about analysis. It's we go in and say, oh, what is the intervention about or the phenomenon about, and what's happening in context. So it's changing the intervention in the context of this stable. Then the last is the multiple case studies. And multiple case studies enable the researcher to explore difference within and between cases. The goal is very much to replicate findings across cases. Because then you can say that this is the reality or this is the truth. That's how things are. Because comparison will be drawn, it is imperative that the cases are chosen carefully so that researcher can predict similar results across cases or predict contrasting results based on a theory. This is the end of video 1. Now it's coffee time. It's time just to get a piece of coffee before we go to the next round.